Take a stroll through Old Louisville and you'll find elegant architecture and Victorian homes. The tree-lined streets are filled with century-old brick mansions with stained glass windows. But the story here is not about the exterior of these beautiful houses, it's about the strange and unexplained occurrences inside. David Dominy is a professor, tour guide, and author of the book Ghosts of Old Louisville. On this Renovate Louisville, we'll take you behind closed doors to David's previous house as he relives firsthand some of the unusual happenings. But it turns out David is not alone when it comes to living in a haunted house. Other Old Louisville residents have similar tales that are both bizarre and chilling.
Welcome to Old Louisville. This is one of the largest historic preservation districts in the country, and as far as Victorian architecture goes, it's been said that we have the largest collection of Victorian mansions in the United States. We've got over 1,000 homes down here, spread out over roughly 45 square blocks. When you take the history of these wonderful old mansions into consideration, you think about the families that have, for generations, have lived, loved, and died behind these fortress-like walls. It's not surprising that some of these homes might have a couple ghosts knocking around. So a lot of people who buy these wonderful old homes down here tend to move in, and it turns out they very often have unexpected tenants on their property. Many people who renovate these old places sometimes are said to dig up spirits from the past, and I'm one of these people who can talk about my own experience. I lived in this place, the old Whitmer house, from 1999 to 2007. And one of the first things I did when I talked to the previous owner, a woman by the name of Margaret, I asked her if there were any ghosts or anything, just because I've always had a penchant for old homes and ghosts, and I was a little shocked when she said, yes, there's one, her name's Lucy, and it turns out Lucy didn't like it when people change things around too much, so I had to find out the hard way. So let's go on inside and I'll show you some of the things that I uncovered in the Whitmer house. Okay, welcome to the Whitmer house. This is a wonderful chateau-esque inspired townhome that was built about 1895 for a local man named Jacob Whitmer. He was one of the early tobacco barons in town, and he had quite a bit of money, so he was able to buy the state-of-the-art mansion at a time when Old Louisville was experiencing a lot of its growth down here. He lived here for several years, and he ended up moving out. By the 1920s, a woman by the name of Sally Sevier bought the house. She had gone to see the movie Lawrence of Arabia down at the Silent Pictures downtown. She fell in love with Rudolph Valentino, and she noticed all these wonderful arabesque details on the facade of the house and on the interior of the house. She came back and painted it the elaborate color scheme that we have it in nowadays, and from that point forward it became known as the Moorish Palace. Now, I moved into the Moorish Palace, as I said, back in 1999, having heard that there was a ghost here. I didn't believe the stories I heard, but not too long after I moved in, sure enough, strange things did start to happen. I was told that a poltergeist by the name of Lucy inhabited this place, and I was told that Lucy didn't like it when you changed things around too much. So I found out the hard way when I started to decorate and put up wallpaper and move things around, and sure enough, 2 weeks later, strange things started to happen. It escalated to such a point that a couple nights in the 6-month period of time where there was a lot of activity here, I ended up leaving the house in the middle of the night. We later discovered Lucy was a former maid who used to work in the house, and she had a little room at the back of the house, and it turns out that was the part of the house where a lot of the activity had taken place. We experienced activity in the dining room and the kitchen as well, all places where Lucy would have been most active. So that's what prompted me to start exploring the haunted history of this wonderful neighborhood. And little by little, I got to know the history of the homes down here. I got to meet the people moving in and renovating these old structures. And one by one, they came to me with more and more interesting stories. And that's what led me to write The Ghosts of Old Louisville, my first book. A year later, I wrote Phantoms of Old Louisville, a sequel, because it turns out so many people down here have stories of hauntings in these old homes. So by the time I'm done, I'll have a series of 5 that detail the history of this neat old neighborhood. And it turns out we're not only the largest Victorian neighborhood, so it's said in the country, we're also the most haunted neighborhood as well. Okay, now we're in front of a wonderful red brick structure that was built in the 1890s for the makers of Magnolia ham, which was a popular food product in Louisville in the latter part of the 1800s. People also call it the Bishop's Hat House. That's because of this wonderful parapet that we can see that mimics a bishop's hat or a bishop's mitre. Nowadays, people know it for something else. This is the home of Happy Balls. That's the official candy of Old Louisville. These are hand-rolled bourbon balls that are made by Ron and Jane Harris, the owners of the home and the owners of the Old Louisville Candy Company, which is operated out of their third floor on this wonderful mansion. Now, Ron and Jane are actors who came from New York City about 4 years ago, and they're another couple who got a little more than they bargained for when they bought this wonderful old home. So let's go on inside and talk to Ron and Jane Harris, the makers of Happy Balls.
When we moved in and my husband went to the third floor back bedroom, the third floor is the servants' quarters. In the back bedroom, he would see this shadowy figure of a woman by the fireplace darning or sewing. And every time he'd go up, he'd see that. Until we opened the Old Louisville Candy Company on the third floor, and the back room became our storeroom. And there are boxes and everything we need to make candy in the back room. But the strange thing is, my husband and I didn't talk about this for about a year, but I'd put something on the table and it would be on the shelf. He'd put something on the floor and it would be on the shelf. Things kept moving around. But each of us thought the other one was moving them until he did something that just annoyed me. I said, "Why did you put that box on the floor when I had it on the table?" He said, "What are you talking about?" And that's when we realized someone else was moving things around in that room.
Okay, so here we are at the wonderful DuPont Mansion on South 4th Street. This is a wonderful Italianate design building that was constructed in the late 1800s. Before Herb and Gail Warren acquired it several years ago, this was a pretty rundown piece of property. The windows were broken out and people thought it was pretty much condemned and slated for the wrecking ball until Herb and Gail put a lot of time and money into this and they restored it. And today it's one of the most popular and opulent bed and breakfasts that we have down here in Old Louisville. They've won quite a few preservation awards for all the wonderful work they've done on the inside. So we're going to go inside and talk to Herb. He's going to tell us a little more about this place because when this place was undergoing its renovation and restoration, there seemed to be a lecherous spirit that kept popping up. They say it was one of the DuPonts who originally built this mansion, and he had a penchant for the ladies, they said, and back in 1893 on May 16th he was shot and killed by a mistress who became pregnant, and he refused to acknowledge the child, and so she got her revenge by shooting him on the steps of the old Galt House back then. And to this day there have been ghostly reports of this lecherous DuPont in a black tuxedo with a gold-tipped walking stick and a gray silk top hat who likes to haunt the stairwell. People who've worked here, the designers and stuff, have felt unpleasant gropes as they were going up the staircase and pinches and things like that. So it might be very true that the spirit of this lecherous DuPont lives on in the old DuPont Mansion bed and breakfast. So let's go inside and see what Herb Warren has to tell us.
Mr. DuPont died a sudden, untimely, and perhaps unsavory death. And there were rumors about him and his spirit circulating for many weeks and months after the death. One guest reported a feeling in the room, a feeling around her that there was something there. And she awoke early in the morning, earlier than usual, looked up and saw a shape, shook her husband, woke him up to show it to him, and it was gone.